I got disconnected. Um, so I was getting concerned there. I was just telling Georgette I have a low signal now, but I had a low signal on Friday and ended up having to cancel the session because I was like almost totally frozen.
Oh, I tried to get on Friday. I was free, so I said, "Oh, I'm going to go join them," and couldn't get in. And then just now, it said that there was a problem. Come back in a few minutes. So my few minutes turned into a little longer.
Okay. Yeah, I got disconnected.
Oh,
And I've never seen that happen, so I don't know what is going on. Georgette was just saying it's something in the stars, maybe.
maybe it's David Hoover's ghost.
Oh,
It could be anything.
yeah. Normally, I have a very small studio apartment, and my Wi-Fi box is very close to the computer, and normally the signal shows up as strong, excellent.
Yeah.
But for about the last week, it has been um, looking like it's really, really low. And in fact, I meant to call the cable company to see if, I turned off the box today. I unplugged it to try to see if that would help. Uh,
Yeah.
but maybe if I call the company, they can like send a boost or something.
Yeah, they could do something like that.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. So, I don't
Well,
know.
well,
So, Venita, I am expecting. Um,
okay.
I don't know why she's late. She normally tries to get here pretty early. So, and I talked to her a little while ago. So, I am expecting her. Um, Randy, I just heard from. Randy actually got in a car accident.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, last weekend, and excuse me.
Oh, man.
She's okay, but
oh, good.
um, her car got pretty jacked up, and
Oh,
she seems to have like a maybe a small concussion. They think.
oh man.
Um, so she's supposed to take it easy for a few days.
Okay.
Um, and Nicole is also having a health issue going on, so she's not going to be here tonight. Um, so that's all I know. Who else do we have? Here's
Well,
Venita, so that's
this
four.
Venita. Okay. Well, Joel's not going to be here because his blood pressure is up
Oh, I can't
and
believe
he's
it.
medicated
Oh,
and
wow.
secluded, so he doesn't stroke out.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm.
I feel like I could use some of that seclusion myself.
Right.
And I live alone.
That doesn't stop him from trying to get in, does it?
That's right. That's right, Georgette.
I'm trying to hold on to my hermitage. Is that a word? Hermit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just won't let me keep pulling it out.
Biting at my heels. So
Oh
how you doing,
no.
Venita?
I'm having a lot of problems. I'm doing great. I'm having problems with my internet this evening. I've been trying to get in here for the last 20 minutes or more.
I was just
Wow.
saying it's
Yep, I started out,
unusual.
actually more than that. I started out about 6:15.
Okay, well, part of
Wow.
what may have happened is I lost my connection, and Kim was just saying that Kim was on earlier, and then she did you go away intentionally, Kim? Did you
I
close
went
out?
away intentionally, and then I couldn't get back in. It said so there's a problem, come back in a few minutes. And then I came back and I got in.
Yeah. So that I think is related to whatever happened when I lost my connection, which I was just talking about the low signal that I have and the problem that we had on Friday, you know. But we hear you clearly. I mean, I hear you clearly,
Yeah.
and you look clear.
Good. Good.
You know. So that's good. And so it looks like everyone is here that we expect to be here. So, so that's good. So why don't we just go ahead and get started because, you know, as usual, this could be a lot to talk about. Let me let me get my screens here together.
Michelle, excuse me. After we make our introduction, I have to go away for 2 minutes, okay? And I'll be right back.
Okay.
After our introduction.
After our intro. Okay. All right. And that. Let me get my book ready. Got my book. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Session 6 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Michelle Odom, and I'm one of the co-hosts of this online group. This session started on February 2nd and is scheduled to run through June 7th, 2016. And our reading selection this session is When and Where I Enter, The Impact of Black Women on Race and Sex in America by Paula J. Giddings. And we are expected to be here on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Until June, and broadcasting from the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You can learn more about us on Google, YouTube, and Facebook, and always feel free to join us in reading our story together. Okay. That was me actually reading the welcome, which I rarely do, but I figured since I had it, maybe I'd try it.
Well, it was great.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and read the summary. Well, actually, before I read the summary, I did not say that we are reading tonight Chapter 7, The Quest for Woman Suffrage Before World War I. And let's go around and introduce ourselves. Venita?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Venita Goins-Walker, and I'm happy to be here with you all this evening. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey.
And Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim. I'm in New York and happy to be here. Always happy to be here.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And Georgette.
Hi, I'm Georgette Moses from Columbia, South Carolina. Boiling hot Columbia, I might add. And,
Is it?
it's boiling hot. We skipped spring.
Wow.
And I missed you guys last week, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Oh, we missed you too, Georgette. We're so happy to see you.
Absolutely. And I am Michelle Odom, participating from Brooklyn. All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and read the summary. So, you're leaving now, Venita?
Yeah, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Although the black woman's contribution to the suffrage campaign is rarely written about, blacks, including black women, had a more consistent attitude toward the vote than whites. Afro-Americans maintained a political philosophy of universal suffrage, while whites, including women, advocated a limited, educated suffrage after the Civil War. Additionally, blacks, including men, had fewer conflicts about women's voting and thereby challenging her traditional role. In Chapter 7, The Quest for Woman Suffrage Before World War I, Paula Giddings briefly explores the role of Black women in fighting for the woman's right to vote, including the ways in which this ran counter to the goals of white women, who largely advocated for a more limited suffrage and demonstrated through a strategy of expediency their willingness to throw Black women under the bus in pursuing their own race-based interests. By the 1900s, Black suffrage clubs were to be found all over the country. The first Black women's suffrage organization, founded in Illinois, the Alpha Suffrage Club, was started by Ida B. Wells in 1913. The National Association of Colored Women had a special suffrage department headed by Sarah Garnett, which represented a force of 40,000 Black women. And the NAACP had its own suffrage department. The fight for women's suffrage, including Black women, before the First World War included prominent voices like Mary Church Terrell, Ida B. Wells, Harriet Tubman, Frances Ellen Harper, Sarah Garnett, Fannie Barrier Williams, Victoria Earle Matthews, Anna Julia Cooper, Nannie Helen Burroughs, Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, Bishop John M. Brown, and W.E.B. Du Bois. All right.
Okay,
Hello?
that was interesting.
That was interesting. Wow. So once again it said I had lost the video call and I kept trying to click to get back in and it kept telling me there was a problem joining the call. Try back in a few minutes. But I kept doing it over and over, and finally, after about 4 or 5 times, I got back in. But it was also giving me an option to start
a new call.
And I didn't want to do that. But if it happens again, maybe I should try that. And so if that happens, then look on the Facebook page in the session 6, the private group.
Okay.
And I'll post the new link there. Wow. But
so we got kicked out. I got kicked out too.
Yeah, and the same thing that you said, that happened to me.
That happened to me too.
Everybody just got kicked out?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not just you.
And I wonder if it's related to whatever's going on with Venita.
It could be.
Because, I mean, she's not back, and maybe she's not back because
she's
not ready to be back, or maybe she's not back because she can't get back in. But I have noticed, the reason I'm saying that is that I have noticed sometimes when I'm looking at the recordings that you know how you can see all of us down on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the recordings you can't see the other people at the bottom of the screen, and it seems to be related to when Venita comes in and out of the call. And then once she gets in, then you can start to see everybody again.
Wow.
We all got knocked out, Venita.
Oh, okay, it wasn't just me. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, we all got knocked out, and I was just wondering if it has something to do with your system, because I've been noticing on our videos that there's a point at which everybody on the bottom of the screen disappears from the recording, and it seems to be related to when you go in and out of the Hangout. Like once you come in, the people will reappear again on the bottom of the screen. So I can't imagine what that could be, but I've seen it happening on the recordings. Yeah.
I don't know why that's happening, unless it's the internet. It's definitely not the computers.
Yeah.
Got to be something else that's going on. I don't know, Michelle. You know how I've been struggling with these people.
I know. So it was offering me the option of starting a new video call.
Okay.
Which I didn't want to do because this one is already recording, and
Okay.
you know I don't. But if it happens again, maybe I should try to start from scratch.
Okay.
So I was just telling everybody to go to the Session 6 private group, and that's where I'll post a link if we have to start over.
Okay. All right.
So let's go ahead and see if we can get in a little bit.
Before something else happens, yeah.
You know. Who wants to read the first section, Suffrage for All?
Oh, I can't see nothing.
Okay. Oh, I'll read that one then.
Okay.
I can't see my glasses. So.
Suffrage for all. The question of whom should be allowed to vote is a philosophical and practical one, as old as democracy itself. In the United States, voting rights have been extended first to propertied white men, then to all white men, then to black men, then to women, and finally to Native Americans, residents of Washington, D.C., for presidential elections, adults between the ages of 18 and 21, and U.S. military personnel living overseas. Questions about gender, race, age, literacy, and education are demographic factors that have been argued about and fought over for all of this nation's history, as well as the poll tax. They are seen, accordingly, in the struggle for women's suffrage in the late 1800s and early 1900s, explored in Chapter 7. These demographic issues are also seen in modern-day challenges to voting rights, where 21 states have passed new laws restricting voting access since 2010. Voting rights for African Americans are actually an issue in the 2016 presidential campaign. During the fight for the woman's right to vote, white supremacists were especially concerned about extending the franchise to black women, and with good reason. Experience has taught us, wrote South Carolina Senator Ben Pitchfork Tillman, that Negro women are much more aggressive in asserting the rights of the race than the Negro men are. In other words, they have always urged the Negro men on in the conflicts we have had in the past between the two races for supremacy. Arguing for educated suffrage, white women, including white supremacists, suggested the abilities to read and write be used as the criteria to eliminate males in the slums and the ignorant foreign vote. Question 1. What criteria do you think should be used to determine whom is allowed to vote in the United States, if any, and why do you see it that way? And question 2. We talk about universal suffrage for adults in the United States. But as we can see through current debates about congressional enforcement powers, states' rights to determine some criteria for eligible voters, and the removal of voting rights from prisoners, there are some categories of adults who may not meet the standards for participation in the American electoral process. What do you see as the costs and benefits of universal suffrage? Alrighty.
Okay, thank you. Anybody?
Yes. What criteria do you think should be used to determine whom is allowed to vote in the United States, if any? And
Venita, just adjust your camera a little bit so we can see your whole face, please. Thank you.
and why do you see it that way? I believe that anyone and everyone that can stand upright, get to a poll, literate enough to be able to read, they don't have to be a scholar, that is mentally competent, should be able to vote, period. And I was so taken by the white women's suffrage movement. If I'm not mistaken, they felt as though they threw the literacy standard in. Knowing full well that during that time there were a lot of black folk, for obvious reasons, that never learned how to read. But because you can't read doesn't mean you can't comprehend. Now today we have folks that are seeing impaired or challenged. We have Braille for them. We have people that are hearing or speaking challenged, and we have interpreters for them, or some ways for them to interpret what's going on. So we could do the same thing if we have to. If you can't read well, if you don't understand big words, you know what I'm saying? But you can understand the political process. So that's why I say if you're mentally competent and you can understand English, whether you can read it or write it should not be an issue, as far as I'm concerned. That's what I believe.
I agree.
And as far as the prison population, that has been a debate for a very long time. Should prisoners who have inflicted injury, presumably, and the reason why I say presumably, because there's a lot of black folk and a few white folk that's in prison that have not committed a crime, been found guilty of crimes they haven't committed.
Yeah, and I think also ex-prisoners, I'm not sure if you ever get your voting rights back.
You don't.
Okay.
You don't. And I have an issue with that too. The reason for prison is to punish you for an injury that you have committed on society. After you have served your time and been punished for that crime, I see no reason why your voting rights cannot be reinstated or should not be reinstated. And I think that's also a ploy, being that our prison population is very high in brown people and black people, to disenfranchise us in another way, you know. So no, I don't agree with that at all. And that has really been, I've read a lot about that in the past 10 years, maybe 8-10 years. And I do think their voting rights should be reinstated. Maybe some folks should say depending on the crime. You know, whether you serve your time or not. If you went around and killed a few people, well, I don't know. I'm not in the judicial system. I'm not really trained in that area. But for the most part, I think it's just another way to, in a lot of cases, disenfranchise us. Really, brown people and black people.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
I guess I would just add that as long as you have your citizenship, to the list that Venita had.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, I just feel that whose standard of literacy were they talking about? Because I could just see them not having the same yardstick for everybody. So I think the yardstick would be so high for us, but so low for others that it would just be, like you said, another way to just disenfranchise us from the vote.
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues that black women hoped to work on once they got the vote was bringing in full compulsory education throughout the South. Because apparently in that period you still didn't have, public schooling as we know it today. Even today, there's no guarantee that a public school education is going to mean that you can read and write or
That's
do
right.
arithmetic.
Yeah.
But, they weren't even trying to front back then.
Not at all.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Georgette, anything on that one?
Yeah. Well, my feelings are one person, one vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the Electoral College. I don't
Oh,
like super delegates because
Mm-hmm.
that means somebody's vote means more than you because they hold an elected office.
Right.
What does that say to you? You know?
mm,
And it was interesting to me that in this chapter they were talking about uh, the 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 corruption in politics being some of their motivation for doing what they were doing. Well, weren't they being a little corrupt by trying to disenfranchise the people who they termed as foreigners or ignorant, when what
Mm-hmm.
they really meant was everybody except me.
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Okay. You know, it's get down to the power and who we want to have power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who do you want to share power with? Does sharing power mean that I don't have as much power, but if we're all working together, then everybody's piece is equal. Everybody's vote is equal, unless you make it unequal.
Right.
So, and
Right. I thought the part where is it in this section where Ben pictured South Carolina Senator Tillman, who was saying that um, the conflicts we have had in the past between the two races for supremacy. I thought that was interesting language because when were black people in America ever fighting for supremacy?
I don't know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
and what did they have to fight with? Okay.
In 1900.
And I read that, and I was like, what?
Right.
What
Yeah.
were y'all seeing?
A double take, but this goes to the warped perception, these fears that they have about us, and we ain't even on that page.
Yeah.
We just looking for a little equality.
Yes.
No
Yes.
more, no less.
But you know how they say people fear that you are going to do to them,
Yes.
or
What
you're
they're going
thinking
to
the
do.
same way that they do. And I don't know. I've just that you might be able to argue now that black folks are in a different place, but in 1900, I don't think so.
I don't know.
So, well, I agree with you, Georgette. One man, one woman, one vote. And were you finished?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's also interesting to think about what one of my Facebook friends today was saying that he was surprised by how silent Americans were um, after George Bush stole that 2004 election. That he really expected, an outcry, and so did I. And I was surprised this I said deafening silence. But I wonder if at some level it's too hard for Americans, white Americans especially, to think about what it means that the electoral process has become so corrupt. You know, I mean, the electoral college is bad enough. Um, but when we're at a point where no matter what the vote says, oh, we put
Throwing it out.
somebody, you know, because we've been fed this pablum of, you know, America is the democratic leader of the world, and we're going around telling other countries what they can and cannot, should and should not do. Um, and you know, we have this image of ourselves as a stable democracy, while all those other little third world countries just can't seem to pull it together. You know, so what does it really mean to the American psyche to have to hold the thought that we're really not any better or any different from anybody else?
Interesting.
I don't know if, and I think that's, you know, I think that's why there's been so much silence about it, because if you really think about it, then it takes you down a road of I don't know what's down that road.
But when you look at it, Michelle, and even in this reading when they bring it out, politics in America has always been corrupt. So why are they surprised when a whole bunch of Chads get
I
this
don't know.
this
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
manipulated, and boxes of votes get thrown into the river or the dump, and you find out later this is a country that kills people.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I think
foreign
it's
and domestic.
okay.
No, go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
I think it's because some of us have had a public school education and we believe what was in those books.
All right.
No Kim Giddings go there.
Yes, she
I
did.
went to public school.
Well, I love you, girl. True.
They say nothing about the slaves not being happy.
Nope. It was wonderful.
Good job.
Yo,
Yeah.
They didn't even have to think for themselves. Good job.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on because it's getting late. Who wants to read section 2, White Women's Shenanigans?
I can read that.
Okay.
It just says that too.
Yes. Oh, you thought she just threw that in
Oh boy.
there?
See, white women generally found themselves as natural allies with white supremacists in the struggle for voting rights for women, as opposed to aligning themselves with the interests of black women. Race trumped gender. How do you say that?
Expediency.
Expediency meant promoting the struggle of white women to gain the vote, while asking black women to wait, as a means around the steep racism of the country. Even Frederick Douglass was asked to step aside as white women made their way towards victory. Where Susan B. Anthony's generation may have seen the theory of expediency as a means of justice for all, younger Southern white women recruited to the National American Women's Suffrage Association around the turn of the century had no such claims and had not been weaned in the abolitionist or natural rights tradition. Most possessed no liberal convictions or psychological ideas, philosophical ideas about the vote. These different generational and regional perspectives would eventually lead NASWA to split. 3. What did you think about the willingness of white women to advance their own interests in gaining the vote at the expense of black women? Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anybody?
Well, are we surprised at that either?
Disappointed.
I wasn't.
I know, Georgia, we all torn up, girl. We're torn up.
Been disappointed, Georgette.
Yes.
Disappointed.
Thanks to that power game. Power.
That's why Ida, that's my girl. I love her. That's why she bust up in that. Bam. Did you read that part?
I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us about what? To which part?
Ida, let me find it right here. Because I like her and Fanny was something up. Girl, let me say right here. They was having a convention. Yes. And you know, they had excluded the black, women, and you couldn't march with them. And all of a sudden, all the black women from the NAWSA, they looked up and they couldn't find her anywhere. And they said, but where's Ida? Everybody said, where's Ida? They said, next thing they knew, Ida came from nowhere. Bam! She came between two white women and said, here I am.
In the front.
Girl, I was like, you go Ida.
Yes,
And what did W. Boys say? We could not be stopped.
Yeah, that's right.
I look for Ida. I said, honey, no. I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it. She bounced right between them, and she's like, yeah, I am.
That's right, because the white women white women from Chicago had said they did not want the black women suffrage group to march with them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they said that, and everybody was like, all right, we'll just sit over here. Not Ida. I said, not today. And Ida bounced right up there in the middle of that march, right between two white women, like, what you going to do? What you going to do?
Yeah.
And see, that's the kind of women that they don't make them like that anymore, Georgette.
I hope they do. Someplace out there, there's got to be some.
Well, the ones they make them, we're all sitting right here, Kim. We are here. It's 4 of us, maybe 5, 6. But that, and in this time, I can see that. But in that time, that was a bold move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
That was a bold move, and I gotta give girl some credit. She didn't want to hear nothing that W.E. Du Bois had to say and nobody else. She said, "Look, let me tell you something right now. I'm marching right here, right with you."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just had to give her. I had to give her her props because the girl was. There's some tough women back then. They didn't care, but once again, they didn't have anything to lose.
That's right.
They had nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And everything to gain. So I was very excited about that. I'm sorry, girls. These women, there's women in this book.
It's very encouraging. I'm glad you picked this book for us this session, Michelle.
Oh, this is a wonderful book.
Yeah, well, it wasn't me. We remember there were 11 people throughout the globe who voted.
Consensus. Okay. Okay.
And I think 8 of the 11 said this is the book.
Okay.
Oh, it's good.
So yeah, I'm enjoying
it. Makes me feel like it's some hope for us, Michelle and Kim and Georgette.
I was a little bit. I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised by Susan B. Anthony, and I know how white women do, but for as long as I've heard of Susan B. Anthony and associated her with women's suffrage, it's just always been glowing, wonderful,
yes.
things. And so it just, it just reminds me that, it depends on who's telling the story.
Yeah, well, Susan,
That's true.
I was surprised too.
Yeah.
I don't know, what side of the bed she got up on, but
I mean, to tell Freddie Douglass, my husband, step back, Freddie. We don't need you on this one.
Yeah. Wow. That made me wonder, well, what was the white suffrage agenda? What was the, because the black women, they lined out, they had a plan. Look, we need to hit this, and some other things in order, in a priority. But what did the white women want besides just the power to elect somebody?
we were the agenda.
That was it. The power to elect somebody.
And I think we were also the agenda.
Especially for those Southern white women.
Right. The black women
Yeah.
were their agenda. It's like,
Yeah.
hold up, it's almost, it's how people, what is that thing? The cut off your nose to spite your own face.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
people saying, and that's why I say we were the agenda. Well, this is what we were. Oh, I'd rather not have this or that, but I'm gonna make sure that you don't get it.
Well, and they were saying it in through this practice, this philosophy of expediency.
Yes.
They were saying, we're gonna keep out those immigrants.
That's it.
We're gonna keep out those ignorant ones.
Uh-huh.
Which of course meant who? Those slum dwellers.
Oh, did you? Oh, when I read that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I don't, women like Susan B. Anthony, I don't know what they were thinking, that you could affiliate yourself with that kind of an agenda, and then somehow in the future, this was her idea, somehow in the future we're going to come back and pick up the black women and pass the laws to make life better for the black people, and but on the one hand you're talking out of this side of your mouth.
Yes.
And somehow you think you're going to parlay that into doing these things on this other side. And so I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that she was for real.
Susan was on some real BS.
Yeah.
All due respect to Susan. I met a lot of Susans in my lifetime.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, apparently she was very close to Ida B, your girl.
Yeah, but she wasn't Ida.
Well, even Ida got hot with her at one point.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She wasn't feeling her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you explain to your friend who is black that,
Right.
look, we're going to pick up all these southern races here because we need to get this vote pushed on through.
Right.
I don't know.
Just sit down for a minute. We'll come back and get you.
We'll
I
come
promise.
back and yes.
That's what I'm saying. I would have turned my back on her because she wasn't even, it wasn't even rational thinking.
Right.
Like, what?
Yes.
Right.
I mean,
and clearly the black women did not fall for that.
They weren't trying to do
thank
that.
goodness.
No,
Right.
No, Ida Fanny wasn't going. No, they wasn't trying that.
That's right. They said, wait for what? We're going to do this now. And I have to say this before we move on. In all the newsreels that I've ever seen on TV, when they show the suffragist movement, it's always white women in white dresses. I have never seen a dark face nowhere.
No.
And I'm so happy to learn about all these organizations that we had. making moves.
40,000 women,
That's right.
black women
Yes.
in one organization.
Yes. Can we get 40,000 black women together now and not have us kill each other? No.
Fighting for one cause. I don't think so.
Yes.
You can't get four together.
Man.
Yeah.
It's really sad. I mean, it's disgraceful. It's shameful, and it makes me feel very sad. In 2016, if I look at what those women did in the 18th, the early 1900s, and I look at 2016,
Yeah.
that was real slaying.
All right now. That's a formation for you. Right there.
Okay.
All right, Venita, are you keeping time? You keep cutting everybody off, but are you keeping the time?
I didn't cut anybody off. Did I cut you off? I beg your pardon, Georgette. I beg your pardon.
No, you are fine.
Okay.
But that's Michelle's cue that we need
But
to
I'm
move
keeping
on.
time for Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, let's move on. Who's gonna read point 3?
I can read it, I guess, if I can see it.
All right.
Black women and men standing strong. In the years leading up to the successful attainment of women's right to vote, black men and women, as well as white women, were optimistic about what the vote would mean for disenfranchised people. Apparently naive about the extent of the corruption in the American political process. Susan B. Anthony, the leading white woman, for example, often said to Ida B. Wells during their conversations on race and women's issues, well, now, when women get the ballot, all that will be changed. Anna Julia Cooper was especially confident about the integrity of black women. The black women, said Cooper, is always sound and orthodox on questions affecting the well-being of the race. You do not find the colored woman selling her birthright for a mess of pottage. I'm sorry, I can't see very well. W. Du Bois was also enthusiastic about the potential outcomes of adding black women to the voting rolls. Votes for women, he observed, means vote for black women. You can bribe some pamperized Negro laborers with a few dollars of election time, but you cannot bribe a Negro woman. With such hope, black women set their sights on obtaining the right to vote. And Giddings noted, it was the rising of specific issues within the context of national concerns that encouraged a brand-based activism among blacks, an activism whose roots were planted by women. Some of the issues of concern for black women in this era were sexual exploitations, controlling prostitution and vice, supporting interracial marriage, ushering in compulsory education of the South, labor protection, and the most immediate concern was the loss of the vote by black men in the South and the change that they had, in many instances, sold their votes to white supremacist politicians. The charge, beg your pardon. Question number 4. Do you think it is true that women have more integrity than men when it comes to the electoral process? Number 5. What are the issues of today you believe could be, I can't see that,
Ameliorated
or resolved through the electoral or political process? Number 6. Barack Obama raised the hopes of a generation of young votes with his 2008 run for presidency. Some have been disappointed with what he has been able to accomplish on their behalf, and have now joined the ranks of those already disillusioned by the American political process. Frustrated with the lesser of the two evils, choice provided this year, presidential campaign, in a presidential campaign, at least one organization in New York City is encouraging black people to vote in reparation now.
To write in reparations.
To write in reparations now as their vote for U.S. president in 2016. What do you think of this idea? I can't see anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody?
Well, I don't think women have more integrity than men, because I think once you get involved in politics, you either play or get played. So, and maybe it works nice. They play nicely in other states, but any state I've been in, they are dirty. They are dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come in, to run on the popular vote just to change things in your neighborhood, in your district, if you get in, if they haven't come to you and say, oh, we see you're popular, well, if you take a dive this time, we'll give you a position on our council, or whatever, later, you can really be hurt, because now you've shown your weakness, which is because you care about people. Which, why is that a weakness? It just speaks to the predatory nature of politicians. What are you there for if you're not there to help your constituents?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love the idea of writing in reparations now, or anything, Bugs, but whatever you want to write. But if your voting booth is an electronic thing, you can't write in nothing. Because I remember the last election of the local one. I wanted to write in something. You could not pick the guy. You could not pick the guy they had on there.
Oh,
You had to pick him.
really?
You had to pick him. I'm like, what kind of shit is this going on here? So it just speaks to, and I'm a techie person. So I was like, when they talked about electronic voting, I'm like, yeah, I can vote from home. That would be great.
Right.
No, they have rigged it so
Really?
it's always in their favor. It's always in their
Wow.
favor.
Okay. Okay. Well, I agree. I don't think that women. I don't think that. I think it's easy for us to say now that women don't have more integrity than men when they're involved in the political process. But 100+ years ago, when this was playing out, before women had access to the vote, I can understand why they believed that women were going to bring more integrity to the situation. And I think it has something to do with women either being naturally or being socialized to be the nurturers, the ones that care. Like the guy that was like, why would you vote for pure food laws?
Yes, yes.
When you can just put some baking soda in your refrigerator.
So crazy and condescending. I was like, really?
Yeah. But I think women, because we are the ones that bring life into the world, do have a tendency to try to support life and preserve life, whereas it doesn't seem to be so much of a priority for the men. But the more that women have gotten into the political process, and rather than doing what I guess Susan B. Anthony hoped they would do, which was to change the process, they have become um, you know, as bad as, maybe even worse than the men, because, you know, women can be kind of
Yeah.
manipulative. You know, we kind of think of things in a like a deeper kind of way than the average man. And so when you think of bringing that kind of intelligence to a corrupt process, it can be pretty scary. And so if you think of someone like a Hillary comes to mind, you know, um, then, you know, and I think that, and it's not, you know, it's not just women, but it's the, I don't know what it is, the process of socialization, the process of Americanization, like, what I'm thinking about is, to me, as women started coming into the workforce, and as white women started coming into the workforce in greater numbers, and in our generation, and moving their way up the corporate ladder. Remember in the beginning when women used to like wear those suits that made them look like men, and you know,
Yes.
they were like
Yes.
harder than hard and tougher than tough. That's what I'm talking about. That process of emulation that goes on when you're trying to prove that you're worthy of being someplace. And we also saw it with black people as they were moving in to the corporate sector, you know, becoming whiter than white to prove they were worthy of being there. And so some of that, I think, is what we've seen happen in the political process as women have become legislators. You know, they first had this need to prove they were worthy of that position. And that means I got to be willing to get as dirty. I got to get down like you get down to prove I can handle this.
Yeah.
So I think that was my time, right, Venita?
Actually, it was 4 minutes. I gave you an extra minute.
Okay. Anybody else on question 4, 5, or 6?
I guess I just wanted to add that maybe 100+ years ago, the question of safety was paramount. Paramount, that you could go to work every day and be sexually assaulted, and there wasn't a crime, it wasn't anything. So I think that made the hope of voting even more important to African American women. So I think that that's also another thing that, in terms of their integrity, it just kind of made them more determined to pull together. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that today, I think when you have more and more women in the ring, sometimes women can compete against each other in this very, very unflattering kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, now it's you both are trying to get to a prize or to somebody else's attention, because there's so much competition between women, and I think sometimes we lose focus with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think that's more of a today issue than I see from the readings of what women were like doing 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that could just be the women I know.
No.
Oh, no.
I would put everybody in the same bucket now.
Okay. Um, Anybody else? What about the question about what are the issues of today that you believe could be ameliorated or made less harsh or resolved through the electoral or political processes? I think mass incarceration is definitely one. Campaign finance um, comes quickly to mind. What else?
Uh, hmm. Like stopping them from weakening consumer rights and protections and the banking situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even with our food, what we're ingesting now is just so questionable.
Yeah.
And so many foods are imported from so many different places, and there are absolutely no regulations. You don't know
What we're
what to eat.
eating, what we're drinking, what
Mm-hmm.
we're breathing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that the political process, to be honest with you, can't do anything to resolve any of those issues. I think maybe before we let them get to the point where they are, because everything is moving very quickly now. You know, if we were going to do something about that, that should have been maybe 10 years ago. But now imprisonment is so privatized. And once you start talking about the paper, and once that paper gets out there the way it is, and I'm not sounding pessimistic, I'm being a realist, I really think it's too late. It's going so quickly now. As we speak,
Well,
they're building more prisons, they're privatizing everything. You know, um, okay, good example is the food, our food system, which I've seen, which is really frightening to me. Um, but they're actually changing the way they even grow our food. You know, they have vegetables that they no longer grow in dirt. They grow in the air. Um,
Venita, the
Theory.
use the use healthcare reform
Uh,
as an example of what you're saying about things being too, too already too entrenched to make substantive change.
um, HMOs were actually came out. What year was that? 19 in the early 80s. And the purpose of health management organizations were to manage the cost and the care, I should say, of patients. That worked for a few minutes, a few years. It was pretty good. You no longer had to worry about doctor's office visit payments or co-payments or medical or your prescriptions. And then it went right. And actually, to be honest with you, it was really the biggest culprit was Medicare. And then after that, it just went to the other side. So now it's gotten to the point where the patient is just a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
No one's managing you. Your care has nothing to do with you. Nobody cares if you're sick. The doctor cannot be a doctor anymore. The healthcare system is telling the doctor what you need, no matter what disease you have.
Okay.
He can't tell them, well, Venita has so-and-so and we have a drug out that works better for her condition, if the health insurer doesn't want me to have that drug. But, you know, things are so much out of hand now till even with healthcare. President Obama's a healthcare initiative that he put in place. Was it a few years ago now?
Obamacare.
Well, so they call it. I forgot. I forgot. Yeah, that he put in place. Now we knew that wasn't going to work from the beginning. At least I did. Because first of all, universal care. If you were going to try to put any universal care in place, I should say maybe his intentions were good, but I don't even know how good they were. If you're going to put it in place, that would have been something you probably would have done maybe 10, 15 years ago. when the economy was good, when folks were working, when college graduates could find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
When these programs are put in place, you have unemployed college students that haven't had jobs, I know, 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years. And then you're going to penalize folks for not being able to buy the health coverage that does not have a job.
Yeah.
Then you're going to put them into one of the programs, and in Connecticut it's called Husky program, for people that don't have jobs, where you don't have to pay money, but no doctor's going to see you.
Wow.
Then they said, well, their thought was, we'll have all these young people sign up, and they'll help defray the cost. That did not happen. So what happened was they took more people out of the healthcare system that way. They made more people sicker, because guess what? The folks that could pay are now paying for those people that could not pay. So the premium started to go up and up and up. So that's why, it's a good example of how we allow things to move along so quickly that you can forget it now. You will never change that now. Absolutely, positively, never change that.
Okay, thank you. So you all know how I hate. Oh my goodness! Do you hear that?
Yeah, you got an echo. Mm-hmm.
I hear buzzing.
How I hate using words like never. Even though I have to admit some things really are never. I'd rather say 500-year plan.
Michelle, they're going to kill us in 500 years with medical.
That gives me a reason to keep putting one foot in front of the other. But so this question 6 about disillusionment with the political process, and how we feel about this idea of writing in reparations now, for those of us that don't believe any real choice is offered by the current spate of candidates, or that is ever really offered between the two major parties. I don't know. I mean, I am struggling with it myself. I've been to a number of community meetings where that tactic has been discussed, and I haven't decided what I'm gonna do. I'm not thrilled with Hillary at all. I'm not thrilled with Bernie either. I hear the argument that if neither one of them is elected or electable, then we're looking at the Donald.
Oh.
And that ain't cute at all. But I never think the choices are good, but I do think that this year the choices are especially slim pickings. So,
500 years. Michelle?
But the idea of writing in reparations now, I believe deeply that Black people deserve reparations and that we should be doing everything that we can to fight about it. Recognizing that Congressman John Conyers has been introducing a bill for more than 40 years.
Yes.
Just to study the idea of reparations. And he has not been able to succeed in getting that much accomplished. But I definitely think it's an issue that deserves the time and attention and advocacy of a large number of people. But I know that we're not there. And so what does it mean to write in something like that as your vote? What does it mean to vote for a candidate, any candidate, that is not going to be responsive to your needs? You know, I'm concerned about the young people that have been sort of turned off because Barack was not able to deliver the world to them. I don't know why he promised the world in the first place. He was trying to get elected, you know, so he told people what they wanted to hear. He probably didn't realize either they were going to actually believe him, you know, but they did, and so now they're really, really disappointed. And so that concerns me. It concerns me that black people and women, but black people in particular, have put so much of ourselves into gaining and keeping the right to vote, and that we're now pretty much, so many of us just don't vote, period, because of the disillusionment. But I don't know. I think we really ought to be thinking about what to do with that. You know, my bachelor's is in political science, so I have always felt that there are a lot of other things you can do besides vote, but they require a lot more energy, a lot more organization, a lot more commitment than we are accustomed to devoting to the political process. But if you think of models, like the Contract on America, and I think I've mentioned this before, but remember the Contract on America from the late 90s, Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, where, you know, they really went down the list. They really went down the list and said, what is it that people need to make their lives good? And said, okay, snatch that!
Okay.
What is it that people need to be healthy and strong? Okay, snatch that! But if you look at the contract, it really is this comprehensive plan of virtually every area of American life. And so for me, it's a model on the one hand of what we don't do. What we don't do is put together this plan and say, these are the things that we want, and then we fight. We fight like Alec, state by state, legislature by legislature, for everything on this list of demands. So that's one kind of model. The other kind of model is what the Tea Party has done. You know, door to door, home to home. Give me a cup of tea, and let's talk about what we're going to do. You know, but that is a level of commitment that is a couple of cuts above going to the voting booth every 4 years and pulling the lever. And so I don't know how we get to a place where we have the conversation about how, like these 40,000 women in the black women in 1900s who were doing exactly that kind of thing, door to door. So so yeah, I understand the disillusionment, but I also understand quite a bit about what we're not doing, not only as black people, but as Americans. Because most Americans don't vote either, you know. Um, and so to me, it kind of doesn't add up to say, oh, the system is corrupt, oh, nothing can be done about it, when we haven't really even tried ABC through XYZ. So that's my speech on that.
Okay. Well, Michelle, do you think it could be because we don't have in our communities, well, first of all, we don't think of ourselves as one community. We're very separated.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the time frame of this book, the chapter that we're in, there were lynchings, and that danger that Kim was talking about was on the doorstep. These women had shotguns, and they had to have them. And I think the last meeting we had where Joel took part, he was telling a story about his mother walking to work with a 38 in her purse just to work at the factory,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
keep. So maybe if we don't consider, because that danger is not on your doorstep, it could be, and be more empathetic to the other people who are facing these dangers. Maybe we could move together like that, but first we have to get empathetic. Maybe that's our
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. I mean, we don't have the same sense of immediacy that they had back then. Um, but that's only because the the optics of the game have changed, but the substance has not changed. And we're affected so deeply by the political process. When we talk about mass incarceration, for example, that's us.
Yes.
Or we talk about entitlement programs. So many of us are dependent on that on those kinds of programs. There's so many ways. There's so many of us that are in the military. There's so many ways that we are directly impacted by what government does at all levels. And so it's hard for me to understand really why we don't feel the immediacy, why we don't make the direct connections. Um, or as we've been talking about here tonight, the food that we eat. That's everybody. Why wouldn't we care? Why wouldn't we care?
You're right.
The air we breathe. Why wouldn't we care about that? So I know it's a very complicated answer as to how people have become so disengaged, so disillusioned. But it's like we're having a tantrum, and I guess that's kind of how I feel about the reparations now. It's like having a tantrum. Well, I've had tantrums. I practically killed myself because I was having a tantrum. It didn't solve a problem, but I guess I felt better because I had a tantrum. So what I'm trying to ask is, so okay, I get why we've gotten so disillusioned, but how do we move out of the tantrum phase into an actual proactive position? I don't know. So anyway, it is getting late. Let's take a quick round of Find the Black Feminism. Anything?
I guess the thing that I found most impressive was once black women got the vote, they actually voted more than white women. You know, so that was something that I just thought, like, they actually used the power of the vote. They didn't just get it just to have it. It was like, who can I vote in? And that's what they did. And I think, I forget the gentleman's name, that he kind of thanked them later to say that he was elected based on African American women voting for him.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was most impressed by Ida's tenacity and the likes of other ones like her, where hell come or high water, they were focused, they had a purpose, they knew exactly what they wanted, and they were not going to be moved by anything. They were going to get where they had to go. They tried not to have to step on your toe, but if she had to trample over you, she said, "Excuse me," but you didn't hear her. She kept it moving. And a lot of other women like her. So I'm so proud of them. I really am. I am proud of those women. I wish that one day when I grow up, I could be like them.
Did you notice anything, Georgette?
Well, the one I was going to say, Venita had already said earlier about Ida Wells slipping into the front of the suffrage march. That was, but I guess just to say that they really recognize the value of their vote.
Yes.
And they had a plan. They worked their plan. The other people didn't want to play nice, so they made their own groups, and they got to work. They got to work. And man, where are we today? Why aren't we like this today? We could just change the world. Maybe that's why they're trying to keep us down, because they know we could do it.
Yeah, they were scared of those black women.
Oh,
wow.
They're real afraid. Very. And justifiably so.
Right.
They need to have been very afraid. Because those women were not going away. They didn't care about you and what. No.
They were even kicking their husbands out of the house. What?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What is it? Somebody wrote a poem in here. Wait. Let me find it. I thought that was so funny.
I'm on that.
Deliverance. Day after day did Millie Green just follow after Joe and told him if he voted wrong to take his rags and go. Like, all right.
Yes.
Wow. I'm like, man, okay.
They were serious. They were serious. I guess for me, the controversy or the whatever you call it, but the difference between the black women and the white women is a good illustration of why we have something called feminism versus black feminism. It's a good illustration of, you know, just because we have this thing called gender in common does not necessarily mean that we are always on the same side or always see everything the same way or always have the same interests. And so by having something called black feminism, it kind of pushes you to look at an issue from that particular vantage point, which is different than Susan B. Anthony's.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So okay. Um. Thank you. Let's uh. Let's take a minute and talk about the schedule. And actually, let me go ahead and stop the broadcast. So, good night, everyone. And we are on a break next week, March 22nd, but are scheduled to return on March 29th, reading our story together. So, okay, you all hold on for a second.